2019 has been bonkers. It's been by far my best year ever on YouTube. It's been crazy, to be honest with you. I'm almost at 5 million subscribers, which is nuts. We hit 1 billion views in total, which is also totally nuts. And throughout the year, I've built all sorts of different redstone contraptions that I personally think are quite interesting. So I thought today we could take a look back through and see which ones are kind of personal favourites of mine. So it all starts on January the 15th. The first Minecraft 1.14 snapshots have been released, and with it, we got the campfires. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if there's any way that we can send messages through these campfires. So I built this thing, which is an absolutely gigantic smokescreen keyboard. If we put a letter through this, you will see that we actually get it coming out through the smoke. So there is the letter S. Now obviously this is quite a silly idea, but I absolutely love the idea of sending messages across the horizon, like secret messages between bases. I knew that nobody would ever do it, but it's still cool. The next build comes on February the 7th, and yeah, it's in my redstone testing world somewhere, which means I've got to go searching. Why on earth did I make this place so big? Why did I make it so big? That looks semi-promising, but I don't think it's it. It wasn't, but eventually I did manage to find it. It's the bank vault piston door. As you guys know, I absolutely love vault doors in Minecraft. They're my favourite types of doors, and I've always wanted to make one that looks like this. I hope this still works. I got scared then. I forgot how slow it is. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on there, but how cool is this as a piston door design? That looks absolutely mega, and obviously the opening sequence, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. Super, super cool, but also super, super enormous. I mean, look at the size of this thing. Now, another thing that changed in Minecraft 1.14 was, of course, the TNT Explosions. It was only fairly recently that TNT was actually changed to drop all of the items that it explodes, which means that I built a bunch of interesting redstone contraptions. Now, let's see, what lever does what? Okay, so that will activate those things, so I guess I should probably activate that. I promise it worked a lot better when I first built it. I don't know what's happened. The idea of this thing is that it's an automatic tree farm, an automatic concrete converter, and also an automatic stone generator, all mixed into one, using one piece of TNT to destroy all of those blocks. It works beautifully. I've got a modified version on the Hermitcraft server. It's just this one clearly had some slight faults. Another change that was made in Minecraft 1.14 was the ability to crawl. We could now crawl along the floor in a one high space. And that led me to building this thing, which might just be my favourite piston house ever. I absolutely love the idea of this because this is a 5-story piston house, but every single one of the floors is just 1 block high. I love this, and I kind of wish that I could have it as a base if it wasn't just slightly impractical. I mean, look, we use this to get between each level. So you have a piston elevator out the back that allows us to travel between levels. We've got different things on every level. So for example, this is our furnaces and all our useful stuff. If we go up again, I think we have all the farms and things. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea, but in a way, it's also really cool. It's like super compact living. Next up, we've got my starter base. Now, looking back, was this a little bit too intense for a starter base? I mean, I see, here's the thing. I could definitely build the starter base within one day of playing Minecraft, but I understand that I play Minecraft a little bit harder than most people, okay? And I forget that occasionally because there is quite a lot of stuff going on here. We've got automatic farms. We have toggleable nether portals and things. But I definitely think it's doable as a starter base, and as far as starter bases go, I mean, this is really nice. I love the design style. I think it looks awesome. I think this is a wicked place to be. We've got beds. We've even got little potted cactuses. I mean, sure, there's a lot of unnecessary stuff in here that I suppose you probably wouldn't be thinking about too much when you're first starting out, but still, I think it's gorgeous. We're moving into June now, and this is definitely a contender for my favourite redstone contraption of the year. As I mentioned earlier, I absolutely love the idea of crawling piston houses, and with this build, we took it kind of to the next level because I made the smallest base you can possibly make in Minecraft. This all fits within a 4x4x1 area, which is totally ridiculous, and in theory you have everything that you need for just a general survival experience. So here we have a bulk storage system where I can store up things like cobblestone, so all of that will be funneled down into a shulker box, and then that shulker box, once filled, will make its way up into the barrel. We also have one for food storage as well. We've got a bed, we've got grindstones, anvils, we have access to the bed so that we can actually reset our spawn. We have a smart storage system, so for example, if I grab my redstone shulker box and throw it down onto this carpet, it will actually be dispensed out, so I have access to that item, and then I can break it and send it back up into the barrel. So this is like my general storage system. We've got block swappers, I have access to blast furnaces, regular furnaces, crafting benches. I mean, it's just everything that you need. It's perfect. And look at the size of it. Look at the size of it. It's absolutely hilarious. Now, I wouldn't be able to do my year in review without mentioning my most memed redstone contraption, I guess you could say, which of course is this little guy, the walking house. Little house on top with a set of 4 legs. I have to say, you know, when I came up with this idea, I was like, that would be cool, that would be entertaining. This is the sort of redstone project that I personally enjoy doing, but for the most part, nobody really cared about my walking redstone contraptions before I created this thing. And then suddenly, when this was uploaded, it was just ridiculously popular. Everyone loved it. There was all sorts of things made about it on Reddit, and I saw it being blasted around on Instagram as well. I mean, it was just... It became a thing. An unexpected thing. And I have to say, I mean, there is something about it that is quite adorable, isn't there? Now, obviously, off the back of this, it spawned the walking town. It also spawned the walking spider house. I guess the moving cliffside mansion kind of falls into a similar category. All sorts of things were built off the back of the success of this one. So, a huge thank you to the walking house for giving me a bunch of interesting projects to work on, because I, for one, absolutely love building walking redstone contraptions. And actually, on the topic of successful videos, this is the most successful video of the year, which I hadn't realized until I actually just started looking through. It has just surpassed 10 million views, which is pretty ridiculous, and it is my safe house. This thing right here, filled to the brim with all sorts of different redstone defenses, mines, we've got drop down lava moats. I mean, it's always fun working on these sorts of projects because you can go totally ridiculous with them. Look, we've got creeper launchers. I mean, there's a whole lot of everything, really. I don't know what that lever just did. Oh, yes, there we go. I think that explains it. So this was another really fun project. I can't help but feel like I should do a safe house that is actually more buildable in survival mode. That could be interesting. Now, this next redstone project was actually something that kind of came before its time in a way. Me and Seth Ming were talking, and he asked me what redstone features I personally really wanted to see in Minecraft, and I said coloured slime blocks. And then a couple of weeks later, he comes back to me with this data pack right here, which converts stained glass into coloured slime blocks. Now you have to remember, this is before the honey blocks were introduced into the game, so as I say, it's kind of ahead of its time. Now I'm very curious to see if it still works in Minecraft 1.14.4, and I believe this is the piston that I need to activate, so it looks like it does. And this guy still looks really awesome. And I still kind of want coloured slime blocks so that we can build things like this, because this is super, super cool. Let's look at this guy. Now, as far as redstone builds go, this one was definitely a ton of fun. This is the Grimproof House. It's a house that was constructed specifically to not allow Grian in. Okay, so I had to build it so that it was horrifically ugly for Grian. I know that he hates it when people build things out of the precious blocks, and I have to say I agree too. I've also got a field of levers because I know he enjoys flicking the levers, but he actually has to find the one that opens up the front door. There's all sorts of different redstone quizzes and puzzles and things for him to do. I mean, it was a hilariously fun project, and I kind of want to do more of this stuff. Now, I tell you what else was seriously fun for a redstone nerd like me. It was going through some of my old piston door designs and just redesigning them from the ground up, trying to make them as small and as fast as possible. It was a blast. It was the best. So I managed to make my 3x3 spiral door considerably smaller. We had the under-over door, which I managed to make improvements on. I mean, there's all sorts of different piston doors in here that are really, really interesting that I was able to just completely redesign, making use of new game mechanics that maybe didn't exist when they were first constructed, and just kind of bring them into the modern age, and it's so cool watching them function. So that was my seamless glass piston door. The seamless glass piston doors, by the way, were kind of the things that launched my YouTube channel into being a redstone channel. Here we have a 4x4 vault door, I believe, that is ridiculously fast, and look how tiny it is. I mean, look at this thing. It's ridiculous. I spent multiple days working on all these different designs right here, and I'm chuffed to bits with them. Like, this might be my proudest redstone video, but it is also quite amusing that about a month after releasing that video, Mojang introduced honey blocks, which were essentially coloured slime blocks, and that made a lot of those doors considerably simpler. For example, here is one of the hipster doors that I featured in my honey blocks video, and as you can see, the opening and closing sequences on these things are just wicked. That looks seriously cool, but we went a lot bigger than this. Just look at how ridiculous it is that we can build doors of this size now. I mean, I know that obviously the redstone is pretty massive, but this thing's just ridiculously big. It's so huge. I mean, back in the day, you would literally, it wouldn't have been possible for starters, but if it was possible, the redstone would fill all of the surrounding area, and now we can actually build them so all of the redstone is underneath the ground. I mean, it's mega. But the honey block fun didn't stop there. We also built some stupid staircases, which I would argue is just as entertaining. I mean, this, it just doesn't get much better to watch than that, does it? Look at that. I'd actually forgotten how cool it was to watch this. And that's infinitely expandable, by the way. You could have an enormous, absolutely enormous staircase. God, watch it closing up too. But the honey block action still didn't stop there, because there was one more thing that I wanted to do, and that of course was self-building bridges. Bridges that can extend and retract themselves into the wall. I mean, this is the stuff that I used to dream of when I first got Minecraft. Like, I used to dream of being able to do this sort of thing, and now we can actually do it. Look how cool that is. Seriously, look how cool that is. It doesn't get much cooler than this. I know it's crazy laggy, and I don't fully understand why, but it doesn't get much cooler than this. I promise. Actually, you know, I can't be 100% sure on that one, because there is another redstone contraption that I built using honey blocks that is maybe as cool as this. And that, of course, is this. If you just hit this button right here, you can see things begin to happen. Houses begin to be constructed. One of my favourite things to build just throughout the history of my YouTube channel has always been self-building houses. There's just something about them that I find incredibly entertaining, and this was by far my best one yet. I mean, look, that is a house that has just popped up out of the ground. I mean, we've got a slight infestation problem, but it's there. And finally, on the topic of cool houses, the futuristic piston house is pretty sweet, isn't it? This might be one of my favourite piston houses that I built this year, although I realise now that I've said that for every single piston house that I've featured in today's video. I love piston houses, I think they're great. One feature that I absolutely love with this thing, though, is the automatic blinds. So awesome. So awesome. It's just, it looks even better from the outside, I have to say. If we set the time today now, check that out. That is from the future, isn't it? Oh, and actually, I almost forgot a really cool redstone contraption, which is my face door. The door that is literally my face. How could I possibly have forgotten this? I mean, look at it. Probably one of the scariest and most horrifying opening and closing sequences of any piston door I've ever constructed, and it seems to have broken, but we'll ignore that. I wanted to see if I could make it look like I had an enormous mustache, but it doesn't seem like I'm actually able to do it. Anyway, I really do hope that you've enjoyed this roundup of 2019. As I say, it's been a fantastic year for me on YouTube. I've done a bunch of interesting projects too, and yeah, I'm proud of myself on this one. I'm hoping that 2020 is just as crazy. I imagine it will be. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya! And actually, on the topic of interesting projects that I've worked on this year, obviously not only have we done the redstone projects and also the hermitcraft projects, but I've worked on a bunch of interesting filming projects as well. You can see a link to one of them on the end screen right here, but I would suggest checking out the filming channel if you're interested in some of the other bits that I do outside of gaming, YouTube and things.